What's up you guys, it's 2Bricks and I'm super excited to be continuing my journey into the Old Republic with 4 new ships, 3 pretty massive ones and 1 little dinky one that kind of expand the era of the Old Republic. And of course that era itself is fleshed out into hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of years worth of history. So, you know, it's a pretty broad region of time, and there's tons and tons and tons of different unique individual ships, and most of them are super bulky. As you can see here, this is probably one of the most massive updates just in terms of sheer volume that I've done so far. Like, I mean, to put it in perspective, like, let me see, the Stinger Mantis, which all of you guys know is a pretty large ship, this is how it looks in comparison to all of these ships that I have on screen now. So that's like that's a pretty huge, you know, bundle of stuff right there. And I think it's a weird thing where it sort of tricks the eye a little bit in terms of the fact that this kind of looks like a B-Wing or maybe a sideways T-16 Skyhopper. This looks like a Millennium Falcon, and this looks a little bit like the Freemaker adventure ship. And, you know, it takes obviously a lot of inspiration from various things, but, you know, maybe a sideways Hammerhead Corvette. But all of these just kind of remind me of much smaller ships in the galaxy, but just scaled way up. So it kind of takes me a little bit of getting used to kind of really get to terms with this this interesting bulkier scale that they were working with in the Old Republic era. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at each one of these. There's a lot to look at with each one. There's lots of details and little moving features and things that I try to integrate into each one. So it'll be fun to take a look. So let's dive right in and take a look. So here is the smallest one of the bunch. I always like to get the smallest ones out of the way first. It is the Striker class Starfighter, which is commonly used by Jedi throughout the game, and, you know, I think other factions too. I haven't played these games too much, I should let you know. My knowledge is fairly limited to a lot of YouTube videos and Wikipedia entries and things, so please excuse me if I get my facts incorrect. But we did get a Lego set of this that was in the Republic dark red color scheme that was called the Striker class Starfighter, so that's kind of what I'm basing this one off of. And here's how it scales next to a T-85 X-Wing. You can see it's pretty similar in size and kind of your standard X-Wing size of craft, maybe just a little bit shorter than that. And it has this interesting configuration at the front here with these 2 sort of little mandible notches. This actually does also feature folding wings in the game. So, you know, if you want to fold the wings up on this one, you just simply unclip them and then you place the wings in the new configuration like that. And then you would adjust the little minifig hand that I've used for the guns as well. But that's not something that I would typically be doing. I'm going to leave it in its sort of forward configuration. But I really like the way that the engines and the wings and everything come together on this. They have a really nice flow, and it's a really aggressive, kind of old school looking fighter. And I think it's really cool. So really happy to have this one amongst the fleet. So there we go. There is the Jedi Striker class Starfighter. So next up we have the XS Light Freighter, which is a really curious design to me. This is something that looks an awful lot like the Ebonhawk from the Knights of the Old Republic game. The design is very, very similar, but this is obviously massively scaled up. But, you know, it shares a lot of commonality here with the kind of square front section, the 2 engines in the back, the 2 gunners on the top and bottom, obviously designed to evoke kind of like the Falcon. But this one has this massive kind of weapons platform off to the side. There's these missile launch tubes at the front, these huge laser guns off to the side. And then here is the kind of inspiration for this, obviously, the Millennium Falcon. So just give you a little size comparison there. So you can see this thing is dwarfing that. And, you know, imagine Han, Leia, Obi-Wan, Chewie, Luke, R2, 3PO, all kind of, you know, tucked into this cockpit up at the front here. And then just imagine the scale of this cockpit. I mean, this is like a giant, like a conference room space in here or something. It's like really, really luxurious in terms of the space. So that's kind of a trend with the Old Republic era ships. They tended to scale these up massively for these games. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is, other than maybe, you know, for the game design, being able to have like really spacious interiors that you can explore. But it's cool. I think it gives it a really interesting look for this whole era. So I'm on board with it. So yeah, a couple of more design features here. Obviously these side little vents here is kind of intended to evoke the same feel as these back exhausts or whatever on the Falcon. I have the tie window here that is used for that kind of gunner's seat, and again the gunner seat is huge, and I'm not really sure if that's just a weird like scaling issue. Like at some point this design was smaller and then it was like universally scaled up. But to me, that's a really, really gigantic window for people to be shooting out of. But hey, what are you going to do? It's got these two massive engines at the back here, which are looking super powerful and look like it's going to give this thing a really, really, really maneuverable, fast look. And then it has kind of these side engine thruster bits too in the blue. So I obviously called that out in the design there as best I could. I really like the orange and the kind of like bright light orange that I used for the color scheme for this to kind of evoke that really, really unique, distinct color scheme that this has. It has the little landing feet on the bottom here, and then also the gunner station is, like on most Falcon type designs, it's mirrored on the top and bottom. We have a little entrance ramp here too, and I moved the location of this a little bit because in the trailer, I think it's called The Return, this ship is featured prominently, and there's a character who sort of jumps and is caught on the ramp of this, as it's going up. And it looks fairly close to the gunner station, but the ramp should actually extend down from kind of back here, I think. But I moved it back, and it just looks a little bit more convincing, I think, for the spacing. But it's still a really, really ginormous ramp. Like, you could fly like Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor up here, no problem. So again, scale is kind of a little weird on this design, but I think the way that it's depicted in the games is at least fairly consistent. Maybe just not in the trailer. But yeah, this is a really, really interesting one. And I like I said, this huge kind of weapons cache off to the side. I like having that as a sort of asymmetry that kind of, again, is a nod to the Falcon having its cockpit off to the side like that. And we have the sort of mandibles here that hug this center section. So it's all a pretty fun remix of the Millennium Falcon. And this particular version, the Redshifter, is also flown by sort of a scoundrel type, right? A smuggler and a rogue. So it makes sense, right? They were definitely trying to evoke Han Solo for this game, and why not give him a ship that also evokes that character? So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I really, really like this one, and I think just the sheer scale of it makes it so eye-popping, along with the color scheme, and like I said, placing it alongside the Ebon Hulk here really gives it a cool, like, imposing feel. So I really like that. So yeah, this is going to be a really fun addition to the fleet, I think. And yeah, there that is. This is the XS light freighter, the Redshifter. And next up here we have the BT-7 Thunderclap, which is one of the largest and most heavily armored ships of its size ever to exist in the Star Wars universe. And they make a point of calling that out in the actual kind of official lore about it, that there has never since been something quite so brutish as this. And I really like the overall feel of the design, and it definitely evokes several ships to my mind immediately come to mind, which is, you have the B-Wing, where it has kind of the side profile here, and then the tail-mounted laser, and then these two wings that fold, and I'll show you those folding wings in a moment. And then also it looks very reminiscent of the T-16 Skyhopper with, if you just kind of turn it sideways, with again the folding wings. And obviously this is one of the earliest ships we ever saw in Star Wars, so it's a fun thing to call back to. And it also really reminds me of this ship, which is Anakin's freighter from the Clone Wars, the Twilight. Again, has folding wings, has a very similar kind of feel to it with the single wing sticking out to the side, and then, a gun on the tail. But obviously you could land, 3 or 4 Twilights on top of the Thunderclap with no problem. So again, massively scaled up here. So I think that's just kind of the scale of this era was just really big. It was a big era. Let me just reattach this gun before I continue. There we go. So yeah, we have the folding wings here that come out from top and bottom. So again, you can kind of see that, what I was talking about with the Skyhopper shape there. We have these this cockpit here at the front, again, really nice and luxurious with the space that it gives you. And then we have a boarding ramp underneath. So obviously everyone can enter on up into the ship, or you can drive some large vehicles up there if you want. I don't think you can do that in the game though. And then we have these 2 landing skids off to the side. There are a couple more additional landing gears here on the side in the actual official design, but the way that this wing sits nice and flat, it gives me a nice point to just balance between the edge of the wing and these 2 legs. So I didn't feel like redesigning this whole section to accommodate additional landing gear, because it's very complicated in the way that this is all done, all this kind of greebly detail. So I think that's fine. And then, yeah, we just have this large kind of cavernous wing space, which here I can just show you is kind of empty. But in the actual game, these are all rooms, and you know, this is a single deck with a ton of rooms and corridors and things laid out in here. But for the purposes of my fleet series, this is just a kind of a functional hollow space that just has the necessary supports for this wing structure. And then, yeah, in the back here we have these massive 6 engines. I used slightly different shades of orange for the rounded tiles back here, just to give it a little bit of a unique look, like it's sort of afterburn, different colors and stuff. I don't know, it's just a thought. Like I said, I really like the greebly details down here. I try to be fairly faithful to what I could see in various in-game models and incarnations of this ship. I think when you're flying the ship, you probably want to remove these landing gears, so I made them nice and easy to take off with just some jumper pieces there, just because it gives you a nicer look to the ship when it's in flight. Again, has these massive guns off to the side, wing-mounted guns here as well on either side there, and this really cool kind of spindly, kind of old school engine intake thing here, which I'm not really sure what that actually does. I just think it looks really cool. I'm using one of the Speed Champions hubcaps for that. Then we have this also this different nice kind of pointed detail here that just sort of looks like housing for various different systems and things along the top. I think that gives it a really cool feel, just sort of the asymmetry of it. And then, yeah, obviously when it's in landing mode, you see these wings do fold in nicely like that, and they come horizontal with the ship. So I think that's cool. I just placed some pieces in here to act as stoppers to get these wings to sit at the right spot when they're deployed. So yeah, I think this is one of those that, unlike a lot of these kind of folding ship designs, the cockpit is stationary on this one, so it's not designed to really like flip around. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, in Star Wars, in space, characters will stay glued to their seats no matter what, but it's interesting that some ships of this type of design would have a rotating cockpit. But whatever, that's fine. It makes it unique. So yeah, it's kind of it looks almost shuttle-like from the front, and then just like a massive engine of war in every other part of the design. So I think it's really interesting, and a really, really weird and cool-looking ship to add to my fleet. So I'll just go ahead and place the landing gear back on there and put it down. And there we go. There is the BT-7 Thunderclap. What an interesting, cool piece of Star Wars history to have in my fleet. So very cool. Next up, we have the Jedi Defender class cruiser, which is another one that shares a lot of design commonalities with ships that I absolutely love. So the one that it most primarily reminds me of is this little ship right here from the Freemaker Adventures. You can really see the similarities there. Obviously, again, massively scaled up, and this is a Scavenger ship, so it's designed to have a lot of interior space and everything. But the way that this has like these little kind of folding wing mechanisms off to the side here, and just the 2 engine, or like, I guess 3 engines, but 2 prominent engines on the top here kind of visible, it just sort of really reminds me of that ship, and obviously with that big hammerhead. And this is a ship that I really like, so I think it's cool that, I believe that the design of this did come after this one, because the Freemaker Adventures is a relatively new series in comparison to the Old Republic games, but I think it's really cool that they continued that inspiration through. Obviously also evoking the Hammerhead Corvette here. This is not a Hammerhead cruiser from the Old Republic era. Those are massive. I mean, those are like the size of a Nebulon B. This is a smaller edition from a much future time, but of course, you know, the Hammerhead, turning it on its side, you get kind of the sense of the similarities there. And then it also reminds me a lot of this guy here, which is the Consular class cruiser, which is probably the ship that most closely mirrors its functionality in the films. And this is designed to take Jedi, Republic dignitaries, and important people around the galaxy to do their diplomacy and such. And I believe that is the primary function of this ship as well, although this one is a little bit more battle ready, a lot more weaponry and stuff on it. But yeah, I think all of those design influences really helps to create a super cool looking and interesting ship. So let's take a look at this one in particular. So starting up at the front here, obviously with this massive hammerhead section, I really like the color scheme and the red and the white, and the way that I was kind of challenged in how to build all of this with the minimal amount of parts and to keep the color scheme relatively consistent. So I like how that worked out and kind of continues down into the front here. We have these interesting, I'm not sure if they're, I don't think that they're windows. This is the cockpit window here, which is orange with trans yellow on the front to give it a kind of a unique hue. I really like when the light catches it at different angles. It kind of looks interesting. And then, yeah, I'm not sure what function these actually serve, whether they're like shield generators or who knows. I'm sure someone will let me know down in the comments, but you kind of have these like horizontal blue stripes that run down here. So that's kind of an interesting look. And then here we have this massive kind of round underbelly section with the landing gear present on it. And then there's the boarding ramp here for all of your dignitaries to come up. Again, really massive boarding ramp, really generous space for everyone to come up here. I mean, you could probably fit, 10 humans abreast, coming up here side by side, linked in arms. So that's really interesting that they chose to just make everything so luxurious and spacious in this time period. We have escape pods here and on this side. And again, those are really scaled up and could really fit a lot of people in them. And I'm just using these new kind of BB-8 head pieces in gray to represent those. And those are attached in upside down using a Technic half pin that is just attached in there. So that gives it a nice look. And then under here we have this kind of really bulky section where I imagine a lot of the kind of storage and useful areas here underneath. And then you would go up higher to more of the luxurious decks above. I haven't taken time to study the internals of this. I know that obviously the game allows you to do so. I just haven't actually played the game, but I've looked at some kind of behind the scenes videos and things when doing these. And I think that's probably what's going on, but I should check. But anyway, we have a large communications array up here, and then there's sort of a horizontally aligned dish right here, which I'm just representing with this modified handlebar piece. And then we have the traditional sort of docking rings here for docking with larger ships, and they have this nice blue glow to them. There's a blue glow that emanates from this section as well, and I've just represented that with some trans blue studs underneath this round section. And then when we go back here, we have also the same blue glow continues into these engine assemblies, and then we have these cool kind of maneuverability flaps, or I'm not really sure what these are, but in Revenge of the Sith, when they're crashing General Grievous's ship, they have a lot of these kind of, they call them flaps and drag fins, is how Anakin refers to them. So yeah, whatever those are, I guess they help maneuver the ship in atmosphere maybe. They're really cool, and you don't often see stuff like that on ships that is designed to move at this kind of scale. So I think that's really a fun addition there. And then we have just, all your standard kind of ship greeblings, some lights and things along the side here. And then these two large double laser cannons on the side here, which I think should be able to swivel front to back, but I've just made them stationary just for the sake of ease for myself. Because, this ship's main function is to sit here and look really nice in my fleet and give you an idea of the scale of it in comparison to everything else. So that fulfills its role. So I have the landing gear down here, which doesn't really support the weight of the ship. It's more for show, and so when I place the ship down, those landing gear will kind of just sit flat along the ground, and you can just imagine that it's holding the ship up when really the ship is just sitting flat. Whoops, I went ahead and knocked off one of the cannons. Sorry about that. The ship needs to be able to defend itself, so gotta have all the cannons. But yeah, that's about the extent of this ship. It was a really fun build, and I tried to make it as hollow as possible, but it's still very densely packed. All of these are, because they're just so bulky, they're so chunky, and I just feel like I need to expend a lot of parts making each one of these. But yeah, I think it's a really fascinating design and a really interesting period of galactic history, so really glad to have this one in my fleet as well. So there you go, there's the Jedi Defender class cruiser, and I believe with that, that is the end of all of the ships that we have official LEGO sets for, now represented in my fleet. So, I mean, as far as this era. So yeah, I think that's really cool. So yeah, there we are. Alright you guys, so there you go. There is the entire fleet all updated with all the new ships, and I think this is a pretty great improvement to the previous selection that I had. I have a lot more ships here, and you could really see here that the collection was pretty limited to just these 3 up front here, and yeah, this is just a really good update, and I think as the fleet continues to grow, hopefully you guys will be excited to see the new ships that are coming up from all the different eras and things like that. And I think for now, the Old Republic is definitely well represented as far as the whole kind of overall scheme of things goes with the micro fleet. So hopefully you guys got a kick out of today's update. I really enjoyed building these ships. Each one took a really long time to kind of figure out the exact specifics of, and I really had a blast with that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed taking a look at it, and yeah, thanks for continuing to watch and to support the channel. So if you guys liked the video, go ahead and do leave a like and leave me a comment and let me know which your favorite Old Republic ship is and which are the ones that I missed that you want to see next. You know, I always take time to read those. Maybe I don't respond to every single one, but definitely do read all of those. So thanks again, you guys. I will see you on the next video, and may the Force be with you.